Hi everybody, just would like to do a quick video just going through guidance matters for this week. I hope you're doing well in what's, I suppose, trying circumstances. First of all, the big news this week was about the cancellation of the oral and the practical tests, and I'd like to speak about that first. So the oral tests that would have taken place this year in Loreto would have been Irish, French, German, and Spanish and Russian. So the performance test for the Leaving Certs that will be effective will be music. So what is happening in that component of those exams, students are going to be awarded 100% of the marks. So for example, in Irish, the oral is worth 40%. So students now will be awarded 100% in that 40%. So that would alleviate a lot of stress, for students, because we're going into now those exams where they now know they've passed already, and their efforts in that subject are going to be more focused, because instead of targeting an oral, a tape and 2 papers, they're now just targeting a tape and 2 papers. So they'll make more progress hopefully in their efforts. So what it's worth in each paper, that Irish is worth 40%, the modern foreign languages are worth 25% at higher level, and at 20% at ordinary level, and music, it's up to 50% of your marks are practical. Music students know more than me, but my understanding of it is music, you can do more practical if you want, and then have 50% of your exam practical, or do slightly less practical, and I think you might be awarded something like 40% of the marks. So I'm not 100% certain there, but I'm sure music students have made that choice already. Why did this change come about? Some people might be wondering. The main reason this would have come about, it was that the State Examination Commission say that they want to take the stress away from students, and I think 100% it has taken the stress away. Like, you're less work to do, and there's a section in these exams where you got 100% of the mark. So it definitely, I would hope you would see it as being good news. They're saying they take the stress away. However, I probably believe it was just impractical trying to run these tests at this time. I know some people say do it over Skype, but things with technology, even if it affected a small amount of people, because you're testing so many, if things went wrong, it would be very, very hard, to be fair, for everybody. So they weighed all these measures up and decided that, look, we'll give everybody 100% in those marks. So it's a great thing if you're like an honours Irish student, or a music student. Like, it is a really great thing. Like, hopefully it will take the stress away a little bit in what is quite a demanding, stressful time. A few sort of talking points around this. First of all, first thing came up to my mind would be like, why wouldn't an ordinary level student move up to a higher level and get 100% of these marks? You cannot change up a level now in these subjects. That's, the word has gone out. How they enforce that, I'm not 100% sure. So if you're an ordinary level Irish student, you cannot now switch up to higher level. And likewise, if you're an ordinary level French student, you can't switch up to higher level French to get the more marks. You can, however, if you are a higher level student, move down, but you cannot move up. In terms of the project work, those deadlines have been affected, and keep this as a watching brief. So your teachers in these subjects, I'm sure, will be touching base with you. But as it stands at the moment, the project work deadlines have been extended in art, ag science, history, geography, maybe music, and home economics to the 15th of May. So just link in with your teachers, because that could be an evolving plan, and what's true today or true last Friday might be different in a week's time. But just as it stands at the moment, that's the 15th of May is when they are going to happen. The LCVP test exam now is due to happen on the 13th of May. So likewise, that is also an evolving plan, and I've no reason to believe it shouldn't happen. I believe it will, because it'll give the State Examination Commission a chance to trial, in a centre with COVID regulation. So I'd imagine it would be, definitely going to happen. But bear in mind, I know I'm repeating myself, but keep it as an evolving plan. That's what the story is this week. In 2 weeks' time, there could be a change. Don't expect to change the dates to move forward. That wouldn't be fair. If someone's now working towards a 15th of May deadline, they're not going to say, all right, now it's the 1st of May. That wouldn't be fair. So you can work towards that. They shouldn't happen any sooner than that, but just keep them an eye. That's an evolving plan. Kind of moving on slightly from this, one thing I'd like to encourage, I'm sure it's happening now, is just is to keep an eye on your school email account. If you want to contact a teacher, that's the best means. That's what teachers will be checking. And in particular, I suppose teachers were notified to try and keep school hours. That being that if you were to say, teachers are asked or notified, if you were to, I suppose, email a teacher on a Sunday, you might expect the teacher might reply to that email, Monday during the daytime. And I suppose it just keeps it consistent from teachers' point of view, that if every morning they check their emails, they'd probably reply. If you sent an email, you're fine to send it, but if you were to send an email, say at 10 o'clock Tuesday evening, it might be Wednesday, during the daytime, the teacher might reply to that. So that's sort of like a school, what they would aim not to do it outside of, say, normal business hours. So but if you were to contact, a school, or the school, if I was trying to contact, say, the 6th years, or another student, I'd be doing it by the school email. So I'd really, every day or so, if you could keep an eye on your school email for sort of updates. I would get a lot of colleges would email me, and I would also get emails from sorry, I'm not infectious, but the colleges would also, the IGC, which would be Institute of Guidance Counsellors, also email me. Some of those emails will be very relevant to 6th years, and I would then forward them on to you. So kind of expect to get 3 or 4 emails of me a week, and they could be very relevant to you if it relates to college that you're going to. So last week, I think I sent 2 emails in the last week from Galway and 1 from Maynooth, and they're just trying to reach out in an online capacity to students to kind of help them, support them as much as they can, while before they'd be supporting them on a face-to-face basis. So Galway and Maynooth's open days in the spring, they're not happening now. So they're looking to try and, support students in a web or online basis. So if you are, I'm sure I'll get links from other colleges, and maybe I'll contact them or go on their websites to see. But I'm sure every college is doing it. But I know that Maynooth and Galway have emailed me, and look, I've forwarded those emails on to you. So basically, Galway have really some innovative stuff that's going on. They have, through their open days, they have linked Q&A sessions for their courses. So if you want to go to arts in Galway, they have a 2-hour web chat where people could talk about their questions about arts and get them answered. And I'd say that even if you don't have a question, maybe you know everything about arts in Galway, but that would be a really, really great conversation to look at, because there might be some people might have questions that you don't know about, and if you could hear them and see the answers, you're going to be making a way more informed decision. And if in the course of that 2-hour conversation 40 questions get asked and answered, you would be like an expert on that course. And more importantly, you know if it's for you or not. And so like that blog or that live Q&A for every course in Galway, be it say arts or might be science, they will have that Q&A at a different time. And I really would try to participate. And what I would say that the email I would have forwarded to you last week about that, what I'd say is they're all on at different times and it's very easy to miss it. So if you would like to participate in, say, the science talk or just observe the science talk, set a reminder on your phone, maybe like half an hour or an hour before it's going to start, so that you then have in a position maybe to get into a quiet place to log in and to watch the conversation. Manute also sent an email on there reaching out to students, and so likewise have a read of those 3 or 4 student emails I sent to you. If it's relevant to you, brilliant. Hopefully you get something out of it. If not, keep an eye on the next email, might be a little bit more relevant to you. A few little other things I'd like to talk about, just tips to do with study, and then a little bit about anxiety, and then I want to talk about videos into the future. And so first of all, just a little bit of small tips about study. I've said it before, study is without a doubt the hardest work you'll ever do. Like I cut the lawn yesterday, you can have a look. It's it's tricky enough to see, but it's an easy job to do because you're like, the lawn's a mess before you start and it's active, you get it and everyone can see it's done, and it's done excellently, by the way. But that's very easy. It's a tangible task with a direct outcome. And what's so difficult about study is it's there's no end product that you get directly after you do it, and you're building up to something that's a leaving cert that's still a long way off, and that's hard to stay motivated. So definitely it's the hardest work you'll ever do. I have a couple of very practical tips that I believe will help with work, might make a small difference, and just try them out. And if they don't make a difference, maybe that's just didn't make a difference for you, but if you try it and it didn't work, that's better than maybe not trying it at all. So first of all, one small piece of advice is that try and leave your study area ready the night before. That it takes a lot of energy to get going with your study, and if that's why this this video is here, because the playroom's a mess. So if you have to tidy a place before you get going to your study, you've wasted all that day's energy that should ideally be focused on getting going with your study. So if you try and leave the study area tidy and organised the night before, it's a little bit more inviting to get going with it. And one thing is, I was lucky, the kids are gone. Kira's, my wife, she's collecting trees for her school, and I got trees for Loretto. I don't know where they'll go, planted. But so the kids are out, so it's a lot easier for me to work now. So I think it's important to talk to those around you. The chances are you're not living on your own and you're in a house with other people, and you kind of need their cooperation. So ideally the night before, I would talk to maybe the adults around, or maybe the sisters or brothers, about what your plans are for your study, and that way you could get a plan that works for everybody. And if you say, these are the times I'm studying at, or I plan to work at tomorrow, They could be maybe out of your way, or if you have a brother or sister maybe doing the junior cert, he or she could do it alongside you. It just means that they can, hopefully those around you, work with you instead of potentially working against you. And like a lot of that collaborative approach to planning, it's just that I hope everyone wants to help, but they might help in a way that you don't find that helpful. So if you talk to those around you, explain to them how they can help, they might be then in a situation to do that. If you don't tell them, they might help in a way that you don't like, and you might feel like that's annoying, because if it's on your mind, you want to do more work, and then someone says go on and do more work, that can cause a bit of friction and tension. So yeah, talk to people about your plans. I feel would hopefully help. Another thing is about writing down every day, either the night before or the day that you want to do your work, ideally the night before. If you write down what you want to do or what you want to achieve that day, and for example, here I'm the designated shopper, so like I write a list, and when I go shopping, and that way I'm more likely to get. And I actually, even though I didn't bring this list with me because I didn't want to, with the whole virus thing, taking stuff in and stuff out, I still wrote down the list, and I learned it off. I read through it before I went, and I was able to get everything on it. So a list is quite useful because the act of writing it down reinforces what you hope to do. But also, if you have a list and if it's in front of you, it can keep you motivated because you can tick it off, like fruit, apples, bananas, mandarins, that sort of stuff. So you're keeping yourself focused and task orientated. So I'd really try and writing things down makes a real difference. And so likewise today I plan my work out. It's okay, you can't read my writing anyway. Plan my work out, and at least in this video I get the points made I'd like to do. So write down what you want to do beforehand. The research says you're 80% more likely to do it if you write it down, and that's a big percentage. So give that a go. The last thing I'd say is it seems the most obvious thing in the world, but is to study the way you're being tested. So like imagine if you were doing a driving lessons, and you sit down by your instructor, and the instructor said, you go motion towards the car, be like, so where are you going? Don't worry about the car, not today. And you'll be like, well, first thing you look in the mirror, and you keep two hands on the 10-4 on your steering wheel, and that mirrors, lights, check, whatever that is. You'd say that's not helping me, because if I want to do my driving test, I need to be out the car preparing by driving. Or like if you were trying to be an Olympian and say, well, I want to run the 100 meters, and all you're doing is you read a book and say, well, all I have to do is move my legs quicker than the other guys, and then we're like, and you're like, oh yeah, that's easy, I just run my leg. You'd be like, that's stupid. If you want to be a sprinter, you got to get out sprinting, and timing yourself and seeing how do you measure up compared to where you need to get to. And likewise with study, you have to study the way you're being tested, and that way you'll kind of know where you're at. So kind of the level you need to know with study is like a blank sheet method. And what I would say is a really good way to study now would be start with a closed book, and you might write down a topic. So if you're say in biology and you're looking at the skeleton, I'm sure you still do the skeleton in biology, or the heart, you definitely do the heart. So you're doing the heart, do a really quick sketch of the heart. So it's been a while now since I did the heart, so it's really poor. One thing I remember about the heart is your right is left and your left is right, because there's 4 sections. Is it the vena cava is in the middle? one of these is an auricle. So this is the left auricle, right auricle. Okay, I'm going to go with right ventricle and left ventricle. So something like this, right? It's really bad, okay? Now, I don't know, maybe I've got some of the terminology wrong. Maybe I have some of the right terms in the wrong places. But maybe I've got 60% of the heart there. Ideally, what you would do, if I was organised, I have it, but I'm not. What I would do then is go to your book and in a different colour pen, fill in what you missed. So, say for example, there's probably some veins, and arteries. I remember arteries leave the heart and veins come back. I don't know what the names are. A vena cava is probably one of them. I don't know. But you could see that I know something about the heart. I know that the rights are lefts and lefts are right. And auricle used to be called, I don't know if it's the up-to-date term, but auricle and ventricle I think are right, but maybe the ventricle's on top and the auricle's on the bottom, I'm not sure. So I know something about the heart, but if I went back, to the heart diagram, I would be going back, finding out what I don't know, not learning stuff that I know already. And that's the key to the blank piece of paper. You are testing yourself, reinforcing what you know, and more importantly, finding out what you don't know. And if you write down, and this will be gold dust though, in red pen, and you'll be like, well, anything that's in red I didn't know, anything that was in black I knew already, so I don't need to go and learn that again. So that's and see how quick I did that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you could even throw that in the bin and then do it properly, if you're like things neat. But something like that took 2 minutes. It gave a basis of where I was at about the heart and told me exactly what I needed to know. And it doesn't take a lot of time, and it's like brainstorming what you know. Then you go back, what's in red is what you need to get down because you didn't know that. What's in black you don't need to worry so much about, but what you did is you reinforce what you know, and in a stressful situation in the Leaving Cert, you'll be able to recall that quicker, and you'll be more confident that you're right. So you're losing less of your brain energy and using your brain energy on the more complicated, trickier parts. Now I'm nearly finished my video. This is about like the 16th take, by the way. So if I make a mistake now, I'm just going to roll with it. Just the tips about anxiety. And now I put a link on. I don't know if I sent an email about it, but a really good link. It's Calm on OneNote, and it's sort of a link of Calm, and it's really professional. So I was listening to Matthew McConaughey. He's does a sleep talk, and David Walliam, if anyone knows Gangster Granny, he does a going to sleep story that's really calm and relaxing. I think there's some study music on there. There's lots to help. So if you check out that Calm, it's all free, but it's quite professional. If you like guided relaxation, would also help. The other thing I'd say about is it's so many variables and you're sort of hearing this stuff all the time. Just focus on the contravirus of doing what you can, and that is social distancing, 2 meters, washing your hands. They are the two things what you can do, and you focus all your efforts on doing what you can do, and then distract yourself about worrying about the things that are out of your control. And if you can need motivation, just think about that. Just what can I do? What's my duty? What's the smallest thing I can do? Okay, I can keep my distance. I can wash my hands. Focus on what's in my control. Do that, and then the relaxation videos, they'll hopefully help distract you from the other things that might make you feel anxious. Upcoming videos, I'd like to talk about first of all, a gap year. It's something I talk about this time every year. It's a really great thing to do, is to take a gap year. So every year, 4 or 5 like of last year, 6 years will come in to me and discuss their options. And it's so much easier to decide what you want to do, when you have your leaving cert points and when you had the headspace. And like some people already are talking about like gap year options, and it's really like something really good potentially to consider. Because it is, a lot of people start college, like 25% of people start college and then they drop out. And that's probably because they weren't ready for college or they found themselves in the wrong course. And so, it's something to consider, taking a gap year. I know when you're 18, 19, you feel like you got to get going. But like the second you get on that, like a hamster wheel, you can't get off it. Like, so if I wanted to take a gap year, it wouldn't work because I have so many direct debits like coming out of my account, and it's I'll have to keep working until I retire, I'd imagine. So when you don't have a huge amount of direct debits or debt to pay off or responsibilities, it's not a bad idea to take a year out, find out what you'd like to do, and all investing in yourself. Because if you did say a business degree, it's not a great idea taking a gap year after your degree, because you'll then be putting yourself in a worse position than the current graduates the next year, because you'll be like, well, you mustn't be that passionate about your job if you didn't want to go straight into it. So it's a really good, I know there's a greater tradition of it in the UK, but it's a very good thing to consider. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it definitely is a really good option. So I'd like to talk a little bit about a gap year, things you could do or things students have done in the past that worked out really good. I'd also talk a little bit about transition to college and budgeting when you're in college, because it's something students worry about, and a few tips about budgeting hopefully will help. So I'll say thank you so much for reading. You might have scrolled on and not watched the whole video. That's totally understandable. If there is something that you'd like covered, like I'm kind of working off a combination of the scheme of work and trying to react to what I think your needs are. If there is something like you'd like covered, like the whole group, you feel would good if the whole group had guidance related, just drop me an email and I'll try and cover best I can. If you have a personal query or question like some students already have, just you always feel to email, and I'll email you back a response, or if appropriate I might ring your parents and chat to you on the phone, see whatever would be appropriate. But feel free to touch base. You have my email, it's kevinclarke@lorettacavan.ie, and and just try and think no longer than a week. It's right here, right now. Your task is, how can I have a productive week in its own merits, because that's what's really in your control. And don't worry about the leaving cert. I know it was 2 weeks ago people were really worried about the orals, and a solution came for that. So just try and live in the moment, try and be as productive, try and have good relations with those around you, and don't worry about things 3 or 4 weeks down the line. And that's what I try and encourage you to do, and best of luck with that.